Hey, welcome into the Sunday side session for the Northwestern game. I am Mike Schaefer, joined this week by three-time participant, veteran of the Sunday side session. You might remember him from episodes in 23, the bowl game in 24, and now the Northwestern game. Matt McMaster from Gary and Matt in the morning on 1620 The Zone joins me. Before we get started, I do want to say real quickly, if you're a Husker 24/7 daily listener, viewer on YouTube, we apologize. We ran into some technical issues at the end of this past week, i.e. I didn't have internet for like 2 days. So couldn't make the videos, couldn't really leave the house for other reasons to go do them somewhere else. So there's no video of me sitting at McDonald's talking about Big Ten football on a Friday. So I apologize if that was on your bucket list. But the Husker 24/7 Daily will be back Monday through Friday next week. We'll be back on track, allowing that my internet remains good and usable. Because if it doesn't, I'm going to have a bigger problem than Husker 24/7 Daily. So I just want to offer that apologies, and then would like to welcome in Matt McMaster here this morning on Sunday. The college football teams that are nearest and dearest to his heart squared off on Saturday as Nebraska and Northwestern played. And it was I don't want to say it was a classic Nebraska Northwestern affair, Matt, but it certainly kind of fit the canon of the series. You get a one-score game. You're muted, just so you know. You know, and I felt like this was a fitting entry into the Nebraska Northwestern series. Not a classic, not one that we're probably going to revisit beyond the Kenneth Williams return to start the third quarter.
Sure.
Was aesthetically beautiful from the press box. Like knowing how that thing was about to end up by the time he hits about the 25-yard line of Nebraska's was pretty cool. Because you can, when you have that viewpoint, you can see the lanes.
Yeah.
And he could see the lanes, and Nebraska created some lanes.
Well, you know what? It's really funny. I have only seen Nebraska play live for one half this year, and that was in Kansas City. All the other games I've had to watch on the TV because I've been doing Big Red Overreaction. And Kenneth had a return against Cincinnati where I almost bursted out of my seat because you see the lane and you're like, hit go, like he's got it, and he moves so quick, and then he got tripped up. Yeah, it was you're totally right. Kind of was everything a Nebraska Northwestern matchup is. Like you had the exciting plays, you had some long passes, you had a ton of run game, you had just back-breaking turnovers from both sides. It just seems like either side in the history of them playing just come up with the worst turnovers in the worst situations. And I thought that when Dylan Raiola threw that just terrible pick, trying to force it on a slant, you're like, all right, there it is. Like this game was missing that. Like you were missing the turnover and collapse and meltdown. And you're like, all right, this is like the chapters are in. Like Northwestern was going to score here 28-21. Nebraska will get the ball back and they'll march down the field for like 20 yards, stall out, and then this game will be over. And somehow, some way, like this team has done a lot this season, they win a game where you've seen the script before in seasons past, and you're like, oh, this is a loss, and it ends up coming out the other way.
Yeah, I mean, I felt confident all week. After the sort of processing of that Minnesota game wore off, it was like, okay, Nebraska stubbed their toe. This is where we actually find out about the culture. We actually find out about the program. We actually find out about the head coach and his coaching staff, because you're going to get a Northwestern team that's just going to play you as straight up as anybody you're going to have on your schedule. What they are is what they are, and how they play you is how they play you. You're not going to get wrinkles. You're not going to get exotic. You're going to get a team that's fundamentally sound. And how are you going to play them coming off of a game against a team that's fundamentally sound and exposed you in a lot of different ways? And so I appreciated the way that Nebraska handled their business coming into the week. And I honestly thought, Matt, I'm jumping around a little bit here and then we'll kind of dive more fully into this. I thought that opening drive from Dana Holgorsen was the sort of thing that should have led to Nebraska just running away with this game. Like the way that they started that thing out, and that what that does is it's disqualifying of Northwestern as a football team. But the way Nebraska started that game and the fact that Emmett was cutting through the teeth of that defense on the opening drive with minimal resistance at times made me feel like Nebraska was set up to have this thing go a lot better. And then, of course, you missed a field goal. You only have 2 drives in the first half that really count, or 3 drives, I guess, if you would. You kind of get it there at the end of the half. But I looked at it, the way it started, that opening drive, that was as nice of a drive as Nebraska's had to start a game all year against anybody. I mean, their best drives have largely been against Houston Christian and Akron at that point. So to go and do it against this team right off the bat after that performance against Minnesota, I thought that answered some questions too.
If you are like, I believe, see, when you say the sentence like, I believe in Matt Rule, right? People immediately think like you're saying that you believe he's going to win a national championship with Nebraska. I'm not saying I believe that. I'm saying that I just believe in Matt Rule's ability to come to this university, use its resources, and create a consistent winning football team. Whether that be like 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins. I just believe in his ability to just come in and use the things at his disposable to go ahead and have Nebraska just competing like it once was. And if you believe in that, I think you believe that they were going to win this football game. Because like you mentioned before, like it's all about culture. Coming back after getting your butts whooped from Minnesota to come back and to play a Northwestern team that does a lot of the same things that Minnesota does that beat you. And to come out and win that game and play hard means that the culture is strong. And I've just always thought that Matt Rule and just how he runs his operation, talks about his operation, articulates his thoughts on his players and his coaches, has always come off as a guy who builds and believes in strong culture. And so to me, I, like you, thought they were going to win this game because I was like, they know that if they lose this game, their backs are against the wall. And there are going to be a lot of people who are going to say, okay, hey, maybe this isn't it. Maybe Matt Rule isn't the guy. Maybe he isn't. Maybe I shouldn't believe in him. So for his ability to get his players to recognize that and play for him and play for the end and play for the team and play this game the way that they did, I thought was wildly impressive and indicative of, hey, this team actually does like each other and they actually do have a strong culture. They actually are building stuff. And you're right, though. This is the 3rd time this season where they've come out really strong and they get a lead and you think, okay, this is going to be a fun day. They were up 14-0 against Michigan State. They were up 10-0 against Maryland. They have that great first drive against Northwestern, and you're thinking, okay, here we're gonna have fun in Lincoln tonight, or we're gonna have fun in an away game, and they somehow make it a competitive game, and it's one of those things where you love that they win a close game, but you're also like, it didn't have to be that close. It didn't have to. It really didn't have to be, but no. It was. It was what they wanted.
That's just sort of who they are. They're a team that is still a little bit more mistake prone than what you want. They're incapable of handling success both in a game and outside of it at this point until proven otherwise. They're really, really bad at finishing games on the football field before the 4th quarter. Mm-hmm. But they're 6-2 right now. And so it's a flawed football team. It's not going to be a team. It's not going to be a season that you're going to look back on and wax poetically about.
Sure.
But it's the building block towards what you hope is next. The big thing is now that you've gotten this 6th win and we don't have to have the conversation about some kind of backslide in October and into November, mm-hmm. we can have the conversation about what the next 4 games mean for Nebraska. And we're going to get into that, mm-hmm. Here in a little bit. But before we get there, let's kind of go through this game a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to just start with this. Emmett Johnson has had several games in the month of October that indicated that he has been Nebraska's best conference running back and really just best running back since Amir Abdullah. I thought yesterday's performance, and particularly early on, was really impressive, but also late, like he looked tired. I have some concern about how usable he's going to be against USC, or if they really go light with him this week. It's one of those like, hey, Emmett knows what Emmett needs to do. We just need to make sure that he's as rested as possible. We don't need him going through the Tuesday or the Wednesday, heavy live portion of anything.
Sure.
Because his legs look tired at the end, but he still grinded out that 5-yard touchdown run where, a lesser back probably goes down short there and somebody else has to finish it off. And we know that's an issue for Nebraska the closer you get to the end zone. So the fact that he had the ability to power through and he looked so good and he was churning. Like I think the word yesterday for me, Nebraska churned through Minnesota and Emmett Johnson churned through that defense. And I just feel like what Nebraska's gotten out of him has helped make this whole thing possible. For as flawed as they are, Emmett has kind of been the magic eraser, if you would, for this team.
Have you seen a running back like him? Maybe you've seen it before, but how often have you seen a running back progress the way that he's progressed? Because typically, Mike, typically, I think they come out the box and they're pretty hot and they're pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, generally running backs you kind of know right away. Yeah, very rarely is it a guy that hangs around for several years and then kind of emerges. The problem for Emmett was he basically spent 2023 just like, that's sort of a break in case of emergency guy. And then you actually needed him. And then he looked better than you thought, but you weren't really going to invest in him because you had to get this thing figured out. And you spent all of 2024 spring talking about Anthony Grant and, or not Anthony Grant, Dante Dowdell and Gabe Irvin and Ramir Johnson. And then, Emmett again emerges. Like that's the thing. He seems to be a fighter and he seems to be the sort of guy who gets discounted often. And all he sort of does is produce. And that's a huge credit to him. And he's doing it with an imperfect offensive line. And he's doing it sometimes in spite of an offensive coordinator that doesn't let him get in rhythm all the time. And I think it's impressive. He's been better than I thought he would be, and I listed him as Nebraska's most important player coming into the season. I don't know how you square those two things up, but the version of him that we're seeing here at the end of 8 games has been nothing short of fantastic.
Well, another thing too, Mike, is he comes out and he plays against Cincinnati, and it's not like I was overly impressed with his performance against Cincinnati. They used him a ton, but I wasn't like, oh my God, this is a guy that, when we get into October, they're going to be putting all of their hopes on. And he came out of that bye after the Michigan game against Michigan State, and he ran the ball on the first drive. And immediately I was like, he looks faster. He just looked faster after the bye. I was like, am my eyes deceiving me? And I asked Gary, I go, didn't he look faster to you? And Gary was like, funny enough, I thought I saw that too, but I don't know if anybody else saw that. And then, you go ahead and you play Maryland, you're like, oh, he is that, he is faster. And you're right. It is a little frustrating that Emmett Johnson has to go a game without getting the ball enough for Dana to realize, oh, I didn't give him the ball enough to give him the ball a ton, the next game. It's happened twice. They didn't give him the ball nearly enough against Michigan State, and they didn't give him the ball nearly enough against Minnesota. And then, funny enough, the next 2 games are his best games because they give him the ball a ton and let him go. He's just, man, he's just trustworthy, and he's fast, and he can make a ton of guys miss, and he hasn't fumbled the football, and he doesn't really turn the ball over, and he kind of just runs his routes, and he catches, and he's got trusty hands. He's just so reliable. And is he a first round game breaking Heisman Trophy running back? No, but he's also pretty damn good and super reliable, and exactly what a team that has some inconsistent play on the offensive end needs. You just need a guy like Emmett Johnson where you're like, yeah, we're gonna give him the ball and he's gonna get some work done. He's been awesome. He's been awesome. So impressive.
One of the Emmett plays from yesterday that people probably won't even remember because you have, and again, I don't know how visible this was on the television, but it was again aesthetically pristine. In that first drive, he got really small to get through a hole on third down, and that was impressive. But he had a third down catch on Nebraska's drive at the end of the game that might have been his best play. So the fact that you can just split him out from running back have them go run a simple route and go get you that first down against coverage. There's not a lot of running backs I can think of that go do that for Nebraska.
I love that you brought that up because I was thinking about that before I went to bed last night. I was thinking about I was thinking about the final drive, and I was like, was that Emmett who was on that? Because I was just going through the 3rd and 7s in my head and like how I felt they were. It's like, was that Emmett who ran that route? So I went back this morning when I woke up. The first thing I did is I grabbed my phone and I went back and I watched the broadcast. They start him off in the backfield. They send him out in motion. It's a great play call from Dana because he recognizes, all right, they're going to run cover 3 here, and they're going to be loose on the outside wide receiver in terms of coverage. And he just runs as fast as he can, and he backs up the corner perfectly. He gets right at the stick. He turns around hard. It was great recognition from Dylan to look at the coverage, to understand the route, pin it on him, and then he gets it right at the stick, and then he dives far enough forward to get the first down. And it's just like, I don't know how many running backs you can really do that with, where you can just try. We're going to line them up as the X. We're going to put them on a corner. And in what at this point, it was the first 3rd down. So they don't get that 3rd down. All the momentum on Northwestern's side. They get the ball back. It's almost like they're destined to score. I don't know how many running backs you can say, yeah, we're going to line you up as an X. We're going to trust you implicitly to run this route perfectly and get the first down. I love that you brought that up because I think we want to talk about plays of the game, right? That is one of those where it's just a 7-yard drive in the box score, but it meant so much more than that.
Well, and just to beyond just the individual of the game, it's what it meant to the fact that you just have somebody that you can do that with. Like, it's just another weapon. Yeah. Like one of the things that was cool about that final drive is if you go look at how that ball sort of gets spread around there, they have to kind of use everybody to make it work. I mean, so you have the 7-yarder that gets it going. So like you said, if you don't get that, you're punting it, and who knows how that ends up. And so then from there, who do you need on the next 3rd and 7? You need Isaiah Hunter. Who do you need on the next 3rd down? You need Dane Key. Who do you need on the next 3rd down? Ja'Cory Barney. So you basically went Emmett Johnson on the first 3rd down, Isaiah Hunter on the next 3rd down, Dane Key on the next 3rd down, and Ja'Cory Barney on the last 3rd down. You got all of them. The play designs on all of them were good. The reads were good. The throws were actually where they needed to be. There was a throw earlier in the game to Ja'Cory Barney on 3rd down that should have been an easy first down, and Dylan put it high. So you kind of had like this weird sort of drive where Nebraska had to have it, and everyone save for Luke Lindenmeyer, who only had 1 catch in the game, but everyone else that is kind of the key cogs of your offense, whether it's Dylan distributing or those 4 guys catching or running it, they all come through for you. Like, they do. That drive. So the game basically is bookend by 2 fantastic drives from Nebraska to start it. And then obviously, they kneeled it. So you don't really count that. I don't count that as possession, but then the one to win it. And those are just well ran, well called, well played drives. And they show you the potential of this offense. Like, when Nebraska can look like this consistently. And the other thing that happened there, Dylan was kept upright. Every one of those drives. Like, you didn't have to deal with any of the,
Mike, he wasn't just kept upright. He exploded up in the pocket to avoid a rush and threw a beautiful strike to Hunter. You're like, oh my God. Like, you're like, clip that and send that to the league. You're like, that's what that looks like. I mean,
and so,
great.
You can see why there is reason to be enthusiastic about what this looks like. I mean, you can also see why there's not, because there's other drives in the middle of there where they're not able to get done. I still cannot believe that despite as well as Emmett was running, Nebraska's 3rd and 4th and shorts are as bad as they are at times. It's 3rd and 2 and you're running a 1-yard route short of the sticks. It's 4th and 1. And I understand the play call, and I don't hate the play call. But it's also one of those where it's like, of course, this is a time where Dylan has to make it happen with his feet. And he actually would have gotten the first, but he doesn't hold on to the ball. It's just it's stupid little stuff like that where they just can't seem to get out of their own way. But when they actually do, this offense looks like it can be something really dangerous in college football. So it's just a matter of how they can figure out how to do that more. and everything else less, which if they could, it'd be worth all of the money that's spent on everything over there.
You bring up an interesting point with talking about the short yardage stuff. Like even the ones that they got were a struggle. Like even the fourth downs that they did convert,
they have to fight for every
that was
single inch in that regard.
But here's an interesting point you made, and I think it answers a question that a lot of people have. You're like when you see these two drives and they're put together, and you're like, oh my God, this is what it looks like, and they're really good, and they could score a lot of points against a ton of teams in the country if they can consistently do this. And what that answers to me is why is the coaching staff so confident in the offense? They are very confident in this offense. Like in and around the program, they think very highly of their ability to score points. And it is proven on the football field when you have multiple times this season, they have 4th and short in, enemy territory in field goal range. And they decide, no, we're not going to kick the field goal. We're not going to take the points. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go for it. And you're thinking to yourself, like, why? No, just take the points. Just kick the field goal. Like you haven't been that type of an offense where you're just, it's for sure you're going to score if you get this first down. Like just do it. And I think the reason why they do go for it is because they're incredibly confident in their offensive ability. And the reason why they're incredibly confident is because they can do things like that. And I'm sure they see that in practice and they're like, oh my God, like if this is their ceiling, if this is their ability, like if we're going to unlock that, like, well, let's be aggressive. Let's go for it. And so I think it's an interesting point of like, if they can cut the sacks down and cut the penalties down and just cut all the BS, and just kind of stick to what they do really well. And I think part of that has been trying to identify what they do really well. They can be really, really explosive. But I mean, Dylan, I have some my reservations on him and where he's at in his 21st start as a college football quarterback. But I don't think you can question that last drive was so poised, so clutch. Just everything that you want out of a guy that has as much talent as he does.
Yeah, I mean, he had, again, we saw it against Maryland. We saw it a little bit against Michigan State. He didn't need it as much there, but he has that ability in the fourth quarter where it
does.
Someone who could have gone through just a terrible game, but he just has that self-confidence. Like that, you want that in your quarterback. I think that Dylan thinks that he is the best version of himself every time he's on the football field, regardless of what had happened before. I think he has that Ted Lasso, be a goldfish mentality combined with like an NBA bench player that knows when he comes into the game, he's going to start shooting threes and they're going to go in.
Sure.
Like he's got a rational confidence and a short memory. And I think that's why he's an effectively dangerous player in the fourth quarter, because whatever happened before it doesn't matter to him. And what's in front of him is what he's got to go get. And that's huge for Nebraska. What they have to be able to figure out is how you can get – I don't even know if you want the fourth quarter version of Dylan for everything, but you have to figure out how you can marry up a more effective, deeper passing game with what is a very effective short passing game.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it has been as much of a struggle as it has. I don't know that it's the route concepts. I don't know that it's Dylan. I don't know that it's a pass protection. It's a combination of all of it. But for a guy that routinely, from every single one of the analysts that I talked to that watched him play in high school, that evaluated him, that saw him in 7-on-7, saw him in the Elite 11, saw him in literal games in high school, they raved about his deep ball accuracy. They raved about his placement. They raved about all of it. So why hasn't that translated to college? I don't know. And that is the next vestige for him. There's two things that he doesn't do well right now. One is throwing over the middle of the football field, which I don't know how that's going to get better. That's either something you can see people or you can't, and he doesn't see them. And so that limits him as a quarterback. If he wants to be an NFL guy, he's going to have to figure out how to do that. And then the next thing is, if he wants to be an NFL guy, you got to be able to put a ball on somebody 25 yards down the field. And he really hasn't shown the ability to do that this season.
Look, his processing and his ability to analyze the defense at the line of scrimmage, I think, has been very impressive this year. And like you kind of described it, the short pass game.
I think he does good with coverages. I don't think he analyzes where pressure is coming from. I think those are two different things.
So I'm going the former here, because what I was going to say is you talk about the quick pass game, right? Like that's just his ability to look at a zone and be like, all right, these are my routes and these are the soft spots. And I know before he even turns around, before he even breaks, I'm going to pin it here. You're totally right. There are, like, when we talk about the whole why are there free rushers and why doesn't the offensive line understand where the stunts are coming from and why is there no communication? That's in part of Dillon having to be like, hey guys, he's coming from the left side. Let's get ready for that. Or, hey, they have 6, we're blocking with 5. Emmett, come over here, stand next to me, go and block this guy. You're totally right in that regard. It's at least like there was no semblance of his long passing accuracy last season. Like you go back and you watch, against Ohio State, against Iowa.
It was Boston College in the bowl game.
It was terrible. It wasn't even close to being competitive. At least this year he has the throw to Barney. At least he's got a good fade ball against Cincinnati. I thought he had a really good fade ball yesterday to Hunter. I mean, he puts it where Hunter can get it, and Hunter went and he got it because he's awesome. But you're right too, where it's like, man, a lot of people talk about when he misses Dane Key on the sideline, and they talk about the other fade that they had to Dane Key. Go and watch that first drive of the Minnesota game. The third play, they try and have him throw outside the numbers. He basically throws it out of bounds. I mean, it's not even close. It's not even competitive. So, I mean, he's got to clean that up. But you're right. When you get him in those kind of quick processing moments outside the numbers, he can just bang. He just hits it. He just sees it. He hits it. It's good. And I think they need, and this is, I've had this weird, my analysis of Dana has been really weird, because there are moments where you're like, man, Dana's cooking. And then there are moments where you're like, what the hell is he calling? What is he doing? They got to get him on the move more. They got to move him. If you're worried about his pocket presence, you know what's one way to stop him, from having his bad pocket presence affect the game? Get him out of the pocket. I mean, he just throws really well on the run. I feel like his mechanics in a way kind of clean up a little bit. He just has he's running and it's almost like he has a better base and he's super accurate. Like, get him rolling out, get him on the move, and don't allow him to sit in the pocket for 4 seconds. Like, just get him going, 2 reads, and then sure, if you want to tuck it and you want to run out of bounds, get 3-4 yards, that's fine. So I would love to see them get him out of the pocket more.
Yeah, I mean, this has been the space where I have pleaded for that for about 7 games.
I don't think they're listening. Yeah.
No,
I don't think
they're Sunday side session listeners. I don't understand though. Like, they do have rollout plays and they do run them,
but they never call them. And here's, I thought of you yesterday.
You get like 1 or 2 a game.
I thought of you yesterday because you came on our show. You're awesome on Fridays at 9:00. It's Gary and I talk about it. It's one of our favorite combos we have. You brought up, and I was thinking about this. You brought up the Luke Lindenmeyer play against Cincinnati that got him to the 1 yard line, where it's an RPO, then they roll him out, and then he pitches out to the left. And you're right, they hadn't run that since then, and they ran it 2 times in the first drive, where they're like, they do the RPO, they got him rolling, and then he throws it, and it was 2 of his better throws. And I'm like DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like, I'm pointing at the TV thinking of Mike Schaefer. I'm like, oh my God, Mike, there it is. Like, I'm thinking you're in the back, like celebrating in the press box. And then they didn't call it again. They didn't go back to it at all.
Well, they ran the RPO on the interception. That was an RPO.
Okay. But
that wasn't the rollout
that
RPO.
Wasn't the rollout RPO. And they don't run the rollout RPO later in the game. And I'm thinking, that's Dillon at his best. That's when he looked so good. And so I don't know. I get very confused with what Dana wants to do, because there are moments where it's like, all right, Dana's going to run the ball and Dana's going to, Dana talked about it himself, right? We got to just get the ball to our guys and the guys who are hot. And then there are moments where guys are hot and Dana doesn't give them the ball. And so I don't know. It's the offense is awesome because they score points, and it's also incredibly frustrating because you're like, and this whole team, it's like, is frustrating in a way because there's so much meat on the bone. Like there's just a lot there. At the same time, though, and I agree with Matt Rule, they're 6-2. They're 6-2, and you're like, okay, like can't argue with that. No one's complaining about that.
Yeah, you kind of have both the most infuriating but also best of both worlds thing. Nebraska's still finding ways to win games while not playing up to their potential, but they're not playing up to their potential, so they're not being the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And then if you're someone who looks at it and you're like, okay, this is the easiest schedule that you're going to have in like a decade, and you're 6-2, which is fine, but you should also probably at worst be 7-1. Regardless of which of those results that you wanted to flip. And even then 7-1 with one of those, Michigan State, if you watch that game, it's just it just feels like you're letting this slip through. And yet at the same time, you're 6-2. So this is why that game against USC, and we can kind of transition to this because I don't have a lot to say about the defense. I think John Butler is calling things incredibly vanilla. I appreciated he actually brought pressure on Preston Stone at the end of the game because he didn't do it much throughout. I don't understand his hesitation to send extra rushers right now because they can't rush. They're not getting home with 4. They're just not doing it.
They're not even getting home with 5. I mean, it's crazy.
It's not great. And so you're going into a week against USC where I honestly have no idea what the game plan will be for Nebraska defensively. And maybe they're going to cook something up that'll get Maeva to be a little less efficient and fall back into the more turnover-prone version of himself that he was prior to getting Lincoln Riley like he has over this last season. But I don't have a whole lot more with the defense. I mean, they made some nice plays. I felt like they got off the field against Northwestern and the officials did what they did. I'm not going to spend any time on the officiating other than say it was one of the worst officiated games I'd watched in a long time. And it's a Big Ten crew, and those two things seem to go together. So,
yeah, you're right. I mean, it's kind of what we saw from the defense has kind of been what it's been all year. They're really, really good, and they get off the field, and then, here's a sluggo that goes for 40 yards, and, here's a 56-yard touchdown run, and, here's like a weird drive where they've been really, really good all day, but then all of a sudden the other team just puts together 10 plays, 80 yards, and you're like, okay, I guess that's going to happen. And so they are, really, really good. They're not elite, but they're really,
they're
really
bend
good.
that bend don't break, that bend more than you want and break more often.
Sure.
So it's a very weird. It's a weird. They're not havoc-inducing. Like that's what's infuriating. But they didn't have a single tackle for a loss yesterday.
But that's what happens when you have an incredible secondary and you don't have a good defensive line, and when you have just an incredibly erratic linebacker core that at any moment could make game-breaking plays like Vincent Shavers and also could just get swallowed up by the offensive line getting up to the second level. And so that's just kind of what you're dealing with. They're just lucky they have really good corners in Andrew Marshall and Sierra Wright and Donovan Jones, who, man, it's a little bit of a week-to-week thing to me with 37. But overall, I think he's been really, really good for a freshman. I kind of liked their game plan yesterday because people were trying to tell me, Preston Stone's playing better, or Preston Stone isn't the quarterback that he was against
Tulane. He's one of the worst Power 4 quarterbacks I think you'll see in any given year. I actually was stunned at how well he played at SMU 2 years ago because that guy doesn't have arm strength. He's short. He's jittery. His feet are always chopping for some reason, like he's a running back, but he's playing quarterback.
And he's got to throw the ball.
You watch more Northwestern than anyone should, really. And frankly, if they had a marginally better quarterback, that would be a much better team.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to put my Northwestern cap on. All right.
Welcome to the Northwestern Sunday side session featuring the Nebraska game with Matt McMaster.
Northwestern football, if you look historically, kind of dating back to the beginning of the Pat Fitzgerald era, has always had good offensive lines, great linebackers, and just very good to really good running backs. Okay, those are the three pillars in which the teams have been made on. And David Braun has done a very good job of continuing that, saying, hey, this is our foundation. Linebackers, offensive linemen, running backs. And what it really has come down to is, can you get a competent quarterback? When Northwestern football has gotten a competent quarterback, your Peyton Ramseys, your Trevor Simeons, your Clayton Thorsons, they have been very good at football. But for whatever reason, they are now in the
I
stretch
can't
of
believe you
you're
left out
getting
Mike Kafka.
my bad. They're now in this terrible stretch of getting your Hunter Johnsons and your Ryan Helinskis and your Mike Wrights and Jack Lausch, and now they got this Preston Stone guy who people were trying to tell me, oh, he's playing better. Like, he's actually gotten a little bit better since the Tulane game, and he's playing better. Get out! You don't watch Northwestern football. This guy stinks. He's terrible. All right, he might be a good guy. I'm sorry if the Stones are listening, but he's not good. I mean, every 20-yard pass is like he's crow hopping. Like he's got no mechanics under him because he's got to throw his shoulder as fast as he possibly can, and he's falling to the ground because he's got no arm strength. And then that Javen Wright interception was one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen. I mean, he just threw it right at zero. I mean, I don't even know what he was looking at. And so I think John Butler looked at the tape and was like, boys, we can just sit back here, and he's probably going to throw it at us, and we just got to make sure we catch it because his turnover-worthy percentage is the highest in the country. And they had 2 turnovers yesterday. They could have had more. So, I mean, this Northwestern team is 5-3. They're probably going to end up being 6-6 because their schedule gets terrible down the stretch. The only game that they possibly could win is maybe Minnesota, who got curb stomped yesterday against Iowa. Like, if they had, you're right, if they had a good quarterback, that team could be like 7-1. And yet
You
they're
put Mark
5-3.
Gronowski, who's not even been lighting it up for Iowa. If you just put Mark Gronowski on that Northwestern team, Northwestern's so much better.
Man, if you put like I know a lot of people are crapping on Aiden Childs and how he's played the last couple of weeks, but like if you put a guy like Aiden Childs on this Northwestern football team, it'd be like, oh my God, like they would be a really tough team to beat. But no, Preston Stone. I'm sure he's a great guy, but man, it's been a struggle trying to watch. And they're going to waste Kamalafe, who is going to get paid so much money next year by somebody else who is in Northwestern, which good for Caleb. All right, that's it. That's the Northwestern.
That was the Preston Stone segment of the Sunday side session. Let's kind of dive into the last couple games as we finish things up here this morning. Nebraska gets USC coming to town. It's a huge game for a variety of reasons. It's a helmet opponent. It is a big visit weekend for Nebraska. They're going to have a lot of recruits in for it. They have made this a theme game with the blackout, with the jerseys, with all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And you get a USC team that's coming off of a loss to Notre Dame that had a bye week, that are going to be as rested as they possibly can be at this point in the season. And they come to Lincoln. They've got to travel. These are the sort of things that it fascinates me about this being a coastal, Atlantic coast to Pacific coast type conference. Like that's not an easy trip, even if it's a late Saturday and your body clock is a little bit more normal. It's not the same thing as jetting up to Eugene or going across town to UCLA or going over to Tucson. Like, there's a little bit more that goes into playing at Nebraska. They're going to play in front of, a large crowd, which they've done. They played against Notre Dame on the road, I believe. So it's not like they haven't played in a solid environment. But Nebraska's best chances in this game to me are going to be John Butler putting together some kind of game plan that induces some havoc, because USC can run it.
Mm-hmm.
USC can get after the quarterback. And those are obviously two things where Nebraska is most highlighter yellow struggling right now.
I think that you go ahead and you watch that Notre Dame game. The Notre Dame stadium is a pretty old stadium. It's been standing for, it might be, I don't know how old it is. I'm not going to say it's over 100 years, but it's pretty damn old. A lot of football's been played there. Jeremiah Love set the Notre Dame Stadium in-game rushing record against USC. No running back, and there's been a lot of great running backs at Notre Dame, have ever run more Notre Dame Stadium than Jeremiah Love did against USC. So this is an Emmett Johnson game, but it's also, can I get a Mekhi Nelson game? Can I get an Isaiah McGee
he's too
game?
busy chucking people around on returns. And
I
kind of like Mekhi Nelson being a bit of a goon coming off the bench for Nebraska.
Was that game chippy? It looked chippy on the.
I sent a text. I don't know, it was a second or third quarter to Josh Peterson. We were talking about it up in the press box. I talked about it with Gary afterwards. Yeah. That was a very chippy game.
Okay.
For both coaches, expressed admiration for each other and the other's program after the game. inside the 60 minutes of that game, those teams did not like each other. There was a lot of talking. There was a lot of pushing. There was a lot of after play activity. Roman Mancini got decked after the first punt. Well after the whistle, and nothing gets called there. Like it was a very they were kind of at each other. I expected even the Desan McCullough driven out of bounds. He looked like he threw a punch. Kind of surprised he didn't get ejected. Like there was a lot that happened in this game.
You know how like there's always that kid on the block, like you don't bully his little brother because then his big brother's gonna come out and he's gonna come and kick your ass. You don't do that to Roman Mancini, okay? Number 26 on that team on Nebraska football is beloved. Everybody loves that guy. You don't do that to Roman because then everybody else is like, screw you. They want to come and beat you up. It just looked like everything was just on the borderline of not being a penalty when they would get to the sidelines. Like
this crew had no feel for how to control the game.
The hits weren't late, but they were you're like, all right, that's kind of close. And like the Parab microphones, whoever was working the Parabs did a great job. Because I went back and I watched the broadcast, and you can hear like the crap talking and like guys going at each other, and like there's just a lot of that's what I thought, but like I'm not at the game, so I can't really that's just one of those things where it's like you get the feel of. But yeah, I think that this is going to be like Mackay and Isaiah Mosey. Like Jadarian Price is a much better running back than those two. But he also was able to get his against USC, and he's the backup to Jeremiah Love. So I think that if you can incorporate a pretty creative run game against USC, get multiple guys involved, I think the quick game could be great. You can get Hunter on the outside, get Ja'Cory Barney the ball just a little bit more than he did against Northwestern. I think that if you want to play this game in a way at and behind the line of scrimmage, if you're Dana Holgorsen, you can do that. And I would like to see them do that. And then on top of that, get them being a little bit over aggressive, trying to come down and then maybe, take the top off the defense once or twice, with either number 2 or number 13. I mean, also too, though, you kind of brought up briefly, like the lack of pass rush is now becoming like, what are we like? Because it's not even like they're not getting sacks. Sacks are overrated. It's now they're not even getting pressures.
Well, they're not moving a quarterback off his drop. They're not moving him off his spot. You're not making guys have to go, like you'll get Stone with some kind of vacate an area he didn't have to, but I think part of it was he couldn't see. So he needed to move to an area where he could see a little bit better. Like Drake Lindsay never had to move.
No.
Drake Lindsay just got to stand back there and survey and throw. And you can't have that. If Jaden Maeva, who's not a big guy, but if he doesn't have to like move off of his spot, which maybe you don't want to make a move because he's a dangerous runner on top of everything else. I mean, if he just gets to stand back there and pick things apart, I know Nebraska's secondary has played well, but it's game over. I mean, Lincoln Riley's offense is going to beat Nebraska's defense if they don't induce any havoc. Well, and yes, they had 2 interceptions, but they were more gifts than they were induced.
Well, also too, like it's not as if, like you said, the secondary is really good, but they've also been caught before. Like they can get caught, and you got Desan McCullough doing his ode to O'Shawn Mathis, just getting way too deep in his rushes and allowing just lanes to open up for quarterbacks to take them if they want to scramble, and it's just like, dude, like you got to either bowl or you got to like if you're gonna do the speed rush stuff, you got to understand. All right. I'm not there. I'm not at my point. Let me come and play contain because you're just going to get gashed by better quarterbacks that aren't Preston Stone. So, I mean, and up the middle, and it's been really disappointing to see what's happening with Riley Van Poppel, who just did not have a good game. But then you see him get a great tackle at the line of scrimmage.
The dance was really why he didn't have a good game. Just throw that dance away, Riley.
But it was
nice tackle at the line of scrimmage. It's appreciated. Just don't dance.
But he gets that tackle, and you're like, all right, that's what it can look like. Like that's what you can be, and yet it just seems like he's always behind the play, or he's getting stood up, in the middle. Like everybody else is rushing, and then the number 5 is just like 1 yard off the line of scrimmage, can't get any push. It's just like it's just been, and it just hasn't taken the steps that you hope he was going to take.
Yeah, this is not supposed to be in celebration of this fact. It's just to put it out there. Yesterday, he probably did the best job out of anybody in holding up at the line of scrimmage.
Sure,
And that
sure.
should sort of tell you where Nebraska's situation is with its interior defensive line at the moment. Because if he was the best at holding up, I mean, there was a play where Su'a just got like spun around like a top at one point in time.
I didn't see that.
And
Yeah.
Elijah
Dang,
Judy,
man.
I think, was banged up, so I don't think he was as effective as he might
No,
be.
but he did have it. Like there were a couple times where I was like, "Oh, 16." Like, all right, there he is.
Mhm.
And not and
He,
like, but
I think he's someone that if you got to use him for 15 to 25 reps a game and
yeah,
split him with other people, and you just got his best 15 to 25 reps,
it's great.
but
It's
when
a
you have
great
to
point.
sneak him into the 30s, it drops. Like
Well, I
you're
mean,
not this team partially. If a team just batters at it all game long, I don't think they have the depth to survive by the fourth
God
quarter.
no, they don't
Nobody's
even have
done that on him though.
no, they don't even have the starters to survive until the
Right.
fourth quarter, if we're being honest. Like, and it's just it is a little bit, and this comes back to the frustration of like not playing up to your potential, right? Because it's like there are moments where you're like, oh, 97. Oh, there's 11. Oh, there's 15. Oh, there's 93. Oh, there's 16. Where you're like, all right, that's a good play, and then you don't see
Mhm.
them for a while, and you're like, all right, you're trying to diagnose in a way. Why did it work that one time in that specific moment and not all of these other times? And how can we get them in situations where you're trying to recreate those good moments? And it's just like that's got to be better coaching. But I think if there is one like, and it was very funny to hear, not funny, but interesting to hear Matt Rule multiple times go, that hasn't happened here in a while, or that's not something that we're 6-2, and hey, how's it? Isn't it so nice? Your second loss is a rough week, everything like that. Like he's he's totally in his own right, and fair to say, hey guys, look around, things are better now than when I first got here. But it's also fair for me to look at both the offensive and defensive lines and be like, why aren't they developed better? Like why is it a struggle on both of those ends in your third year when you are supposed to be a in the trenches guy? I think that's totally fair and my right to ask that. And it's something they've struggled with all season.
Yeah. No, I think it's fair to be concerned about what's happening with the lines. I think it's fair to be excited about the fact that the team is already bowl eligible, has 6
Mm-hmm.
wins, has winnable games in front of them. USC is the toughest of what they play, and then it's a sliding scale of how you view UCLA and Penn State and Iowa at that point.
Great point.
So you've got a great opportunity to go finish this thing with the best record that you've had since 2016. We'll see how Nebraska goes about it, but it's a deal where I'm fascinated how they approach this week. I'm fascinated what the
Mm,
conversations are going to be coming out of Monday and Tuesday. I thought a lot of this last week, Matt Rule and the coaching staff was vulnerable. And some
sure.
people ran with that as, oh, there's dissent amongst the ranks and their leadership has holes. And, John Butler doesn't know what Matt Rule wants, and Dana Holgerson isn't doing what Matt Rule wants. And, there was a lot of
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then you get to Saturday and they sure look like they were on the same page again.
Do you
Um,
I love helping my
so
friends. Do you want a stat about this game that you
sure.
can use in all your articles? Can you guess to me how many times Nebraska has won a game outright as an underdog since 2017?
It's 3.
It is three. It's very
I
good.
was listening to the show yesterday
Damn it.
as
Damn
I
it.
was driving back for a bit. I tried calling in because
Oh,
I
you
had a
should have.
question, more specific for Josh because he has a little bit longer frame of reference than you do.
Sure. He
But
definitely
the
does.
question I'll throw it at you, and you can kind of think about it if there's something that you have for it too.
Probably don't.
And I'm going to pose this on the message board. Mike Ekeler is Nebraska's most successful assistant coach hiring
Oh,
since
yeah.
blank.
Yeah.
And then the question isn't so much like I'm not talking about Scott Frost comes here and he brings his coaches with him, or Mike Riley comes here and he brings his coaches with him. I'm talking about a coach that's already
Oh,
been
yeah. I
here that
can't.
has to
Yeah.
fill a void.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's Bo Pelini as defensive coordinator under Frank Solich,
It's
which takes
probably
you
what it is.
all the way back to 2003. And then that
Hey,
guy ends up becoming Nebraska's head coach in large part because of the success of the defense that year against a soft schedule. I don't know that Mike Eckler is going to become a head coach. I think that would be the most jacked up team in the country.
It'd be insane. It'd be
if
crazy.
he does become a head coach.
They'd all have bloody noses before the game.
When I felt like there was a segment of the fan base that kind of rolled their eyes when it was hey, if Nebraska just plays competent special teams, they probably win or one or two more games in 23 and 24. They're not only playing competent special teams, they're damn right good at special teams. And you could easily make the case it has won them 2 games this year. It might win them more.
Yeah.
And it is kind of incredible what it's like that you can just have this unit affect your game in such a positive manner. And it's not just a Kenneth Williams touchdown. It's Archie Wilson bombing that punt, putting him inside the 20 when Nebraska has their first drive that goes nowhere, or they don't get the first down call that they probably earned, or whatever it was. Kyle Cunanan's only had 2 misses this year. They've been eerily similar kicks and misses from that side of the field into the south end zone. So maybe that's something to note going forward. But otherwise, he's been great. We never have to talk about Kevin Gallick because he's been that good. Ja'Cory Barney's been quieted down because teams have stopped giving him opportunities.
Yeah.
But now you have Kenneth Williams as a threat on kickoffs. So it is remarkable how good that special teams has been. And all of that just to say, like, I can't think of another assistant coach that has had that big of an impact. And, Keith Williams was brought by Mike Riley. I think a lot of people would point at how the wide receivers played under him. It also happened to be when they were the deepest at that position room. Other than that, I don't know that there's been an assistant hire that's had the level of impact that Mike Ekeler has brought to the program.
You bring it up. I mean, there are going to be plenty of people who are going to say, hey, if Matt Rule leaves, why not look at making Mike Ekeler the head coach? I'm not saying those people are right, but you will have a contingent of people who really want him to be the head coach.
I think if you make him interim coach for a game, that's okay. I don't know that I'm willing to stake the program with a guy who's never been a head coach before.
No, you and I are on the exact same page. But you will have people, but this is the point. You will have people who legitimately want that and legitimately believe that. And I think that just speaks to the impact that your special teams coordinator
I've got text messages this morning from a chat group that's mad that Matt Rule didn't want to have anything to do with Mike Ekeler after that touchdown on Saturday. They're very unhappy with Matt Rule's reaction to it.
I think Matt, first off, is like, doesn't want to get hurt, right? And doesn't want to get dead. And he also is right in a way of like, great, we still have like 30 minutes of football.
Yeah, I think we got to on what's to come,
exactly. Like, and you're only up 8 at that point. So sure. I mean, look, I'm sure Rule will make a comment about it at some like on Monday and be like, I just didn't want to get hit, or something like that. So
he made jokes in the past that he's gone out of his way early in the morning to avoid Ekeler because he doesn't want that much energy. Right,
yes, he does. Yeah, I think he doesn't like. Mike Ekeler, how Matt Rule looks at Mike Ekeler is kind of how I treat some friends where I'm like, I love you, but like I need you in doses. It's honestly how some people might treat me, where they'd be like, I love you, but I need you in doses. Where it's like I think Mike Ekeler is the ultimate dose friend for Matt Rule. He loves him, but he's like, here and there.
His energy level is like when you go to a friend's house and they have one of those tiny dogs that's always zipping around the room.
Yeah.
And it's a cute dog. I like the dog. I'm pro dog. But I don't always need that dog whipping around and then flying onto me when I'm sitting on the couch trying to watch something.
But there's that cool moment where the dog is finally tired for a good 15 to 20 minutes, and you're just petting it. You're like, hey, you're not so bad,
Yeah, and he sits next to you nicely, and you get to pet him and your friends and everything.
You're like,
but then he catches the second wind, and he's back to zipping around.
You're like, damn it, this dog. What are we doing? That was my dog forever. But
all right.
I love how did we just descend into that? Is crazy. But Ekeler for head coach,
on the Sunday side session. That's what happens on the Sunday side session. So we invite everybody to check out all the coverage from BC, from Brunch, from myself over at Husker247.com. Plenty of great stuff there. We'll have some recruiting stuff here on Sunday. We'll have more coverage leading into this huge USC game coming up on November 1st. Matt, where can the good people get your work, get your takes, celebrate with the Bears, commiserate with the Bears, commiserate with Blackhawks hockey, as I assume that's getting into full swing here.
The Bulls won yesterday. They beat
the NBA is apparently a thing that's happening. I make one NBA tweet and I anger the very, very non-sense of humor fan base that is Creighton.
That was so good. I love still the fact that you have to do hashtag NBA tweet just got me going because it is
wanted to make it known this wasn't a normal tweet that my audience that has come to appreciate me. Not that they do, but I wanted to distinguish it.
NBA Twitter and like pro wrestling Twitter are like its own, like it's a whole other app.
I can handle one of those a lot more than I can handle the other, and it's the one that's not even a sport.
But it's not a subsect. It's a whole app. Like it's a different apparatus. Like you are just in a different, complete world when you get into NBA Twitter.
The IWC and the NBA Twitter.
Oh my God, they are like the IWC. I've had to take a break from. I have complete it is just it becomes such a cesspool in there, and it's just wild. But it also gets pretty funny, and the memes are great. But no, Gary and Matt. Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., 1620 The Zone. You can catch us on our podcast page too, at Gary and Matt as well. You can go to our YouTube, 1620 The Zone YouTube page. We're all there as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Matt McMedia, MattMcMedia. And then I also do the I-80 Club with Josh Peterson on YouTube. So go and give that a subscription. Him and I do a NFL before the game podcast that is before you do your NFL after the game podcast with Josh Peterson on the
National Fun League.
National Fun League before the witching hour, which by the way we will be recording in 17 minutes, so that should be fun. So that's me. I'm Matt McMaster. Thank you for putting up with my Northwestern rant, and this has been an awesome Sunday side session.
All right, hey. We appreciate all of you that have listened, that have viewed all of it. We're very fortunate to have the audience that we do, and we're excited to continue this along as we get to the month of November, effectively 2 months down. I know Nebraska started in August, but we're not going to count that as a full month. There's only one game, really. 2 months down, 1 month to go. Nebraska already bowl eligible. How is this thing going to finish up? Get to Husker 24/7 for all your coverage.